The LA life, not so kind for the Cleveland Browns. Losers today. Close game. Got away from them late. Just a tough one. We'll break it all down. Your postgame, Locked On Browns, starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, joined by the OBR's Pete Smith. Your Cleveland Browns, Locked On Browns post-game show. Appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd keeps getting bigger and bigger. Get on the bus, Gus. Make sure you're part of the party by subscribing to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And, of course, Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcast. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. Cleveland Browns losers today. Joe Flacco's debut for the Cleveland Browns. Losers in LA. Offensively, I got to be honest. I mean, I was kind of impressed. Absence of the run game. That's certainly something we're going to get to here, and that's kind of been an issue here over the last couple of weeks. And what I'm saying, absence of the run game, I mean absence of a successful run game. It's just not really been there the way this team needs it to. Some of it could also be, of course, four quarterbacks, your defense. You're going to try to take that all away. But Pete, I guess we'll start on the offensive side of the ball here because, you know, it was somewhat positive. Even the Hopkins missed extra point. Look, regardless, he was still going to take the Browns another score. And I can't really get on a guy who's done most of the heavy lifting for this team to this year. Flacco for the most part. And I'll start this, Pete, and I'll kick it to you. We've had these discussions for years during the Stefanski regime. And look, if you want to call it a knock, I guess it's a knock or whatever, but it's been able to try to get the ball vertically down the field during the passing game. I think we saw more from Joe Flacco today in one game than we saw on a consistent basis from any quarterback that's behind center for Coach Stefanski since 2020.
Look, I mean, you had so many limitations with the Browns with everything they're missing, and you're on quarterback 4, and they came out with a really good drive right off the rip. Joe Flacco looked like he hadn't, missed a beat. The ball was on time, accurate. Guys were making plays. They had 3 explosive passes on the first drive of the game, including the touchdown to Jerome Ford, where they completely had the Rams defense flying out of the way, and nobody was over there to stop it. There's some things that they didn't have initially that they figured out over the course of the game. Their run game actually got much, much better in the second half. But overall, you got exactly what you wanted from the offense, save for the fact that they didn't get as much out of the red zone as you would have liked. But nevertheless, heading into the latter part of the fourth quarter, you had put yourself in the position that the Browns have consistently found themselves in, which is the game is within 1 score, unfortunately, because they missed the extra point. But if you get a stop, you drive down the field and win, or even in the case where they give up the touchdown and they had an opportunity to go out and tie, I still don't know why the Rams didn't go for 2 there. Then you're still in it. And that's in some ways all you can really hope for given where they're at. But this game feels a little disappointing because I think if the defense played a little bit better, they win.
Well, I mean, you look at the 36-19 final score, obviously probably not truly indicative of the way this game was based over the whole 60 minutes. So, certainly, a little disheartening there. Joe, for me, and I see something, guys, he's been here for like a hot minute, I think he could have done. I think he did as well as could be expected. The John Johnson III, and dude, get off your high horse, John Johnson III. That interception, obviously, just basically a YOLO ball at that point. And Joe, to his credit, had done a really, really good job of understanding, hey, I'm not seeing anything here. Let me just make sure I get the ball and just throw it away. He was really, really cognizant of that. But Pete, there is an issue here. And look, maybe after the Nick Chubb injury, this team held things together, running the ball a little bit better than maybe was reality. But it's starting to become an issue now. And look, you get Pierre Strong back involved today, 2 carries, 20 yards. That was nice. I mean, I think Kareem has been what he's been to this year. I mean, just a hammer and nails type of guy. And obviously a lot of short yardage today, 12 for 47. But this running game, look, it could be the factor of 4 different quarterbacks. It could be the fact of, you know what, I'm going to take away the one thing that you do well and make any one of these 4 different quarterbacks beat me. It's just not there, this running game. And for a team which, you know, if you look at the overall premise and plan of what they want to do is play good defense, you know, obviously run the ball, throw the ball a little bit, but, you know, that it's just not happening for this team. And they really need to be able to run the ball with some consistency, and they're just not doing that.
So the run game was interesting because initially what you kept running into is the Rams were just out quicking the Browns, like Aaron Donald and Kobe Hunter, I think his name is.
Turner.
Some of the guys were just getting into the backfield like quick and causing disruption that way. And they were getting plays in the backfield. They were just disruptive overall. They got better. They sort of started figuring some stuff out as the game went along. I think being able to pass the ball the way they did was helpful in a lot of ways. I think this is where this game, the game last week was going to go. If DTR doesn't get hurt, you were going to see more balance as this game went on. I think even though there are people who are going to sit there and go, why did you throw the ball 40 times with Joe Flacco? I think the Browns found balance relative to what they had in this game. Kareem Hunt ran the ball better in the second half. Pierre Strong had a couple nice carries. Jerome Ford had a couple nice plays in the second half when the Browns started getting hands-on and being able to control the line of scrimmage a little bit. But it's tough, and they need particularly those interior guys to play better right off the rip. I thought Ethan Postic had a rough first half, which doesn't even get into the whole questionable snap infraction thing that's happened now twice in 2 weeks. But there, you know, almost every one of those busts, there was somebody who was getting beat by quickness initially, and then the Browns sort of figured their way out and made it work, you know, sort of as the game progressed.
Yeah, I mean, it's just difficult from the circumstances. And, you know, when you're not being able – and look, with all the changes that the Browns have had, and certainly at the quarterback position, when all this is going on, you know, you hope you can rely on what is supposed to be your consistency, the running game, the defense. Obviously, those things, you know, again, now for a second week in a row, just not there for them, you know, whether it's something that's just not traveling. But look, you know, this team most likely is going to travel if they do get to a playoff game, so they have to get this figured out. Obviously, a couple of key road games down the stretch here. Browns 7-5 with 5 to go. Could have taken advantage of a plum opportunity today of Pittsburgh losing at home today to Arizona. Just couldn't get it done. We're going to flip it up here. We're going to get a little bit more into the defense here because some of the stats and what we've grown accustomed to this point in the season, just not there, and not good at all. Jeff Lloyd, joined by the OBR's Pete Smith, your latest Locked On Browns. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Look, folks, the next couple of weeks are coming up. Obviously, your get-togethers, you know, whether it's friends for Christmas, your family for Christmas. Me, it's not about gifts. It's not about the time. It's just about the time spent together, the stories, the fun, the family. So whether or not your family gives gifts during the holidays, you get to define how you give to yourself. And the holidays are a great time to do just that. So whether it's starting therapy, going easier on yourself during the tough moments, or treating yourself to a day of complete rest, remember to give yourself some love this holiday season. You put a lot into yourself. You need to be the best version of yourself. So you need to be able to find a way to get some rest, relaxation, and enjoy this time and get yourself ready for what comes into the new year. It's always helpful to learn positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It's not just for you. It's for those who are around you. It's for what you do. It's for what you work, trying to make yourself the best person, partner, employee. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely done online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched up with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge if it's just not working. In the season of giving, give yourself what you need with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Jeff Lloyd, joined by the OBR's Pete Smith, your post-game Locked On Browns, 36-19. Unfortunately, Browns, the whole game plan, Denver to L.A., set up camp in L.A. It all looked good. And honestly, for about 50 minutes plus, it looked like a great plan. Certainly, unfortunately, it all unraveled. Browns ended up losing 36-19 on the road in Los Angeles to the Rams. Now come home. Jacksonville Jaguars, 5 games to play. Appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen. And the Locked On Browns everyday crew, get on board by subscribing to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And of course, the podcast is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Pete, this team, and you wonder about the defense here. And look, 0 sacks, 0 turnovers, 1 tackle for loss. And if you were listening to this right now, try to remember what that 1 tackle for loss is. This defense, it's, and with Jim Schwartz, Pete, this is, I don't want to say supposed to be the calling card, and maybe it should be when we're talking about a team that is now on 4 quarterbacks in this season. And to be fair, every one of these quarterbacks, and even Joe Flacco today, have had some moments, have had some highlights, but this defense is supposed to be a huge, huge part of this. And it's just not right now. And look, we have no idea of knowing what version of Myles Garrett he truly is right now. But Zadarius Smith, Okoronkwo, Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst. And this was a game, no doubt, where no Denzel Ward was going to be something that was going to be an issue. Hey, announcers, you've done the Browns 2 weeks in a row. Maybe you should understand that Martin Emerson is pretty much a starter for this team. And look, for Martin Emerson, this was going to be a tough matchup this week. Obviously, these type of shorter, quick-footed, elite route runners certainly don't line up necessarily what is the best part of Martin Emerson's game. But Pete, you expect more from this defense, and there's got to be adaptation. You've got to be able to go against everybody every week in understanding that not everybody is built the same. But the Browns defense this week, again, and it was, for a while, it was kind of neat and kind of weird to watch, a 35, almost 36-year-old quarterback and a 38-year-old quarterback go throw for throw. But, sometimes look, you got to do something here, and you got to be able to play up to basically the back of the baseball card. This Browns defense did not do that today.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns earned their reputation on making negative plays and being able to dictate what the offense could do. You get that big tackle for loss, you get that sack, and suddenly it's 2nd and long or 3rd and long, and then it's coming and you can sort of stop it. And there were times that it happened, but it was by virtue of penalties, as opposed to making the big play. And the 1 tackle for loss was everybody's favorite, Khalif Halasi, coming downhill and making a tackle in the backfield on a play JOK really made.
He was so good. He was an undrafted free agent for the Kansas City Chiefs, who in the summer wore a single-digit number. So he just wasn't good enough to make the Chiefs, who were obviously the Super Bowl champions. But it was a nice find for the Browns.
It was interesting because he's been on the team basically the entire year in that capacity. But look, you didn't have a good pass rush in this game. Certainly Myles Garrett was limited. He's not making any excuses about it, so it's whatever. And Matthew Stafford and the offensive line for the Rams deserve a ton of credit. Matthew Stafford did a nice job of stepping up and avoiding pressure in the pocket, and the Rams offensive line was able to sort of do what he needed to do. but you give them 13 possessions and you're not putting pressure on them, he's going to eventually find a way to beat you, which is what happened. And it wasn't like there are things you can point to and go, well, not having Denzel Ward hurt. But that first touchdown to Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford just beat the coverage. They called an inverted cover 2. The safeties were dropping down. The corners were dropping back. And before they had a chance to get where they were supposed to go, ball was already in Nakua's hands, and he's running 70 yards, and the Browns are beat before they even have a chance to react. Like, that's not a personnel issue. The Rams just straight beat you on that play. And you give them enough of those opportunities. There's the example later where people are going to be mad at Mike Ford, but he's in cover 2, and the ball's out into the corner where the safety's supposed to be or is late getting to or whatever. They just made the plays against the defense. And that is like, as I've tried to preach to people, and I'm sure you have too, Jim Schwartz's defense goes as far as the defensive line takes it. When you don't get that, he's going to get beat. It's not very good. It doesn't do a whole lot of things. And a quarterback who's been around as long as he has, and Matthew Stafford, and a coach that's as smart as he is, and Sean McVay, is going to devise ways to beat you. And that's what happened. And they were able to do that in the running game. The Browns did a really bad job of dealing with crack blocks. And they tried to combat it a little bit with super wide alignments initially, but it still wasn't effective. They got beat on a couple of those, sort of jet sweep type action plays and some of those things. So, I don't look at this defense and think it was a bad performance. I think they were fine, but fine is not good enough for where you're at with what you have on the offensive side of the ball. Your quarterback 4 is trying to make things happen. And the Browns defense hasn't been very good on the road either. I mean, relative to how good they are at home, they're still a fine defense. It's just, that's tough to win when you need them to sort of be a great defense.
Yeah, that's where I 100% agree with you. And this is probably where it's a little bit unjust, is to expect them to go out and, limit teams to, and look, we're talking about a team that's limited 2 teams this season to under 100 in total yards. That is not the norm. Look, the old line of everybody's on scholarship here in the NFL. That is not the norm. But 401 total yards, 0 sacks, 0 turnovers, only 1 tackle for loss. You can't have all or none. You need to like nice balance, and balance would have been maybe a difference maker this week. Could have been a difference maker last week. And keep in mind, both of those games kind of got it just away at the end. But 60 minutes and, consistency, and you can't have extreme highs and extreme lows. It just doesn't work. But look, 7-5, 5 to go. And we're going to break it down here. And we're going to throw Pete a little something here. And I think I know where Pete's going to go with this, but we'll continue here. Close it out. Latest Locked On Browns losers, 36-19. And to be fair, that score isn't totally indicative of this game. But either way, it's a loss in the loss column for the Cleveland Browns. Jeff Lloyd, joined by the OBR's Pete Smith. Stick around, segment 3. But first, a little word from Gametime. If you're like me and you have a bunch of people in your life who cannot get enough of live music, then searching Gametime and concert tickets might be a really, really good way to go for gifts. You shouldn't have to worry about where you're buying tickets from for your next big event. Gametime is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices used from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Look, it's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. They have the lowest price guarantee. They have event cancellation protection. God, they have job loss protection as well, which is really, really cool, obviously, in these tough economic times. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsor deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Zone deals. You pick the section, and Gametime picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. And the Gametime guarantee means you will always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, go to Gametime, download the app, and create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Jeff Lloyd, Pete Smith, your post-game Locked On Browns. Browns losers today, 36-19. Pete, we're going to start here, right now. Even if DTR is healthy next week, is Joe Flacco now officially the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns?
Maybe. I think that's the easiest play. I do think the end of the game gave me some pause. I think he did a really, really good job.
I think the end of the game, my only thing with the end of the game was he ready for 60 minutes?
Well, look, look, the interception was a product of Mark Sanchez, one of the few things he was right on. He did take basically
in 2 weeks.
Crow hops. Yeah. Basically 2 crow hops before he threw that ball. He was just super late. And
that had happened a couple of times. There was the completion to Cooper on the sidelines. There were a couple of times where, and it's understandable. If it's over a year, it's understandable.
The part that gives me pause is what happens after that when the pass rush is just flushing him and he got nowhere to go and he ends up with sack and then safety. And
that's when you look like 38 years old.
Yeah, that's the part. That's right. So I would assume that you're going to go with him based on. I think there's a lot of things. I think Stefanski is very comfortable calling an offense with Joe Flacco in there, and it looked good in a lot of ways. The limitation is the fact that, like Joe Flacco, again, I think as we talked about, Joe Flacco is not a poor athlete. He did a number of things in this game. You're going,
the rollouts were impressive. I ain't gonna lie.
Like he's got good balance. Like Matt Ryan in those situations, a guy who would fall over trying to roll out. Like that's the difference. So Joe Flacco certainly did some good things rolling out on the move. So I think there's a good fit there. I think that's going to make Stefanski very comfortable in sticking with it. The limitation there is the DTR can do a few more things with his legs that can sort of maybe open up some more opportunities with the run. But just Flacco's arm may be enough to sort of be like, we'll be fine and just roll with it like that. So we'll see. Like I said, if up and 58 minutes into that game or whatever, I think it's a no question that Flacco is going to be your guy. I think the last little bit gives you some pause. And just I liked what I saw from DTR in growing. Having said that, like we talked about, he opened the door with the injury. And the other part about that is DTR got better as he played more. You'd like to think that Flacco will be better
100%
playing more. The only thing that worries me a little bit is I don't think the Rams had much of any pass rush in this game. They were not bad. And
2
again,
sacks at the end.
I think Flacco did some good things with his feet. But I do worry if there's an onslaught, what's it going to look like? So we'll see. I think Flacco is the easy choice right now. But here, what I would caution people to say, I don't think it's a given that you're just like, Flacco the rest of the year.
My first thinking is look, you're going to come into this 7-5 at home against Jacksonville. And I think the Browns, to their credit, have been kind of smart after the Raven game. The first Raven game with DTR is, we screwed the kid once. Let's not do it again, essentially, because look, you're building somebody for the long term. Whether or not he ends up being the starting quarterback for the Browns, who even knows? But you want to be able to groom somebody and have him ready to be a guy that could be a break glass guy. But you don't want to destroy all that in year one. So now where the pressure's on coming off of 2 losses, you don't want to maybe throw DTR out there in a game against Jacksonville, who is currently a division leader in the AFC South. And kudos to the AFC South for the last couple of years. We talked about the AFC West 2 years ago. We talked about the AFC North this year. All of a sudden, the AFC South really quietly just kind of coming along and doing their thing this year. So maybe that is something you don't want to do to DTR again. But I 100% agree with you. Like if Joe Flacco can throw for 260 after essentially 5-6 practices, what can he do with practice 7, 8, 9? And now go into a venue, and granted, it wasn't necessarily a road venue in LA today, but go into a venue where everybody in the building is essentially rooting for the Browns and rooting for their offense. That might be the way to go. Pete, the running back room. look, Jerome Ford, we've seen some really good things this year. We know what Kareem does. Pierre, there's that little bit of spice. Is there any change there, or is this something that more needs to be done within the structure of game planning and maybe more within the structure of the offensive line, maybe understanding who exactly is behind them as far as what they got to do in each run game, each run block scenario?
You have who you have at this point. You got what you got. There's no guy coming in and saving this thing. Like Jaron Christian cannot run block. He's awful at it. Like
and technically this could be the last start for him anyway.
Yeah, like DeJuan Jones is not a good run blocker, but the three guys you have inside, they have to play well, and they have to play better than they have. They can't have a half like they've had. Kareem Hunt, part of it is he's just not that fast anymore, and part of it is he's playing through that groin. And you saw it last week when he aggravated it. Clearly, they don't trust Pierre Strong to do anything else that either than run or catch the ball.
He did have a chip. He had a chip in pass pro. But go ahead.
Yeah. And Kareem Hunt did not do well in pass pro in this game, but nevertheless. And I like what Jerome Ford offers. I continue to be pleasantly surprised with what he can do. The
one long run he had today, and I always talk about this with him. It's a question of just get what's there or patience. And he chose the right one today on his good run today of patience. And it was just a little slight hesitation, and he was able to find himself open for 12 yards around the left end.
He's just infuriatingly inconsistent. He does
100%
things, and then he will do stuff that you're just like, why? And some of it's not there. And the tight ends do a pretty good job in blocking, and Nick Harris and stuff, and they can create some advantage. I thought the Browns did some good things to create numbers advantages. But, there's no magic wand for this. They've got what they've got. A healthy Jedrick Wills would be a slight upgrade in the running game. I don't expect miracles there either. He wasn't exactly setting the world on fire, but he's at least a little more physical than Jaron Christian is. So maybe there's an opportunity for them to get better there. But ultimately, it really comes down to the execution from the guys they're counting on. Posick, Bitonio, and Wyatt Teller, who all can be very good, but you'll just then have these spots in games you're sitting there going, why is this happening, and why can't we get it going? And the other part of that is, look, defenses are going to continue to make the quarterback beat you because you're on your fourth quarterback. Now, Joe Flacco may have helped that with his play, and I think DTR was doing some good things that sort of made the defense last week a little bit more honest and open some things up. But ultimately right now, the opposing defenses want to put you in a situation where your quarterback has to beat you. And right now that's not happening. They're not winning. So I think you're going to continue to see teams trying to pressure that. I think the thing that frustrated me the most was how many empty boxes the Browns could not take advantage of because they just couldn't trust the run. In fact, the play Amari Cooper got hurt on was a completely empty box with just defensive line there. And it felt like if you felt good about your running game, you check to a run and give them the ball. And they did it later where they got an empty box and ran through it. But they just got to get better execution out of those guys. They're not learning anything new. It's just get it done.
Well, and look, it's a lot of changes, and it's certainly not helping this team that each week it's a game plan catered to what the quarterback is this week, which may not be catered to each individual skill player. Look, it's a really, really difficult spot, obviously, for the coaching staff to be in, and that's probably why I'm saying, look, just give Joe the ball, and let's do this for the next 5 weeks. Hopefully, God willing, Joe can be healthy enough to go for the next 5 weeks. It's just a really, really tough spot to be in when every week it's like, well, this is the quarterback this week. This is the quarterback this week. Really tough spot to be in. He is Pete Smith of the OBR. Make sure you're checking everything out. Obviously, Pete and the crew over there. Again, tremendous marriage between Pete and the crew over there. Make sure you're following @_Pete Smith _Brownies Brown Bites podcast. Pete and Bree do a fantastic job over there. I am Jeff Lloyd, your host here. For everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Truly appreciate you. You guys are the absolute best. Make sure you join the Everyday Crowd by subscribing to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And of course, the show is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 36-19 losers, 7-5, 5 to go. home against the Jacksonville Jaguars next week. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go, Browns.